Welcome back in to Daybreak. It is 7:17 here down at the Daybreak station in Sylacauga. We have our guest today on Talks with RJ. We have Noah Peterson, but everybody in the community know him as YoungBopete. How you doing, YoungBopete?
Man, I'm doing great. How about you?
Good, man. Can't complain. We're gonna get right into it. So,
Okay.
You're a producer, writer, and entrepreneur. How do you manage to handle all those things you do, man?
It just comes with focus. You know, I have to focus on one task at a time, but at the same time, try to tackle as many tasks within the day. So that's basically how I do it. Just basically focus on one thing at a time and then go from there.
Right, and I was doing my research, and I noticed that you began at the age of 10, and
man.
you began taking off then. So is that something you always had a passion for, or to kind of talk about that? Kind of talk about what made you take off from there and walk us through that process a little bit.
Okay. So basically, whenever I was younger, I was always into music, entertainment. YouTube had just was still fairly new, fairly fresh. So that piqued my interest at an early age. And then from there, I just started to, kind of tap in with the YouTube and making songs and writing songs, not really making them fully just because I didn't know how to make them at that age, but just trying to understand, okay, well, let me try to write a song, or let me just try to rap or sing or just do something. And from then on, I just did it, and it stuck with me. It resonated with me. And thinking of which, whenever I was younger, I used to play the drums. So that's probably where some of it kind of sparked up at.
Kind of remind me a little of myself. I play the drums as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, at my church at Pine Grove down in Sylacauga.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome, man.
So, and then, most rappers have their own catchphrase. You know how, like, Lil Wayne have Young Money, or different people have different sayings. But in your case, it's YoungBopete cooking up the sauce. If y'all ever heard him listen to his music, it always say, Bopete cooking up the sauce. Can you talk about that? Hey, that's kind of catchy a little bit, man.
Yeah, man. Bopete cooking up the sauce, man. Yeah. So that's what everybody, that's what really kind of got my name on out there even further whenever I came up with the catchphrase, Bopete cooking up the sauce. Now it's Quantum Records.
So that's the new one, Quantum Records.
Quantum
Okay,
Records,
so what made you go from Bopete cooking up the sauce to Quantum Records?
That's a great question. I'm going to tell you why. The reason why it's a great question, because I was, producing for, everybody in the Talladega County area. Then I also branched out to record people from Birmingham and Atlanta. And, my name was residing, and my name had spread it across. But it was time for me to actually put my business into the picture. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I knew that I had to push my business just as well as my name. So that's the reason why I transferred from Bopete cooking up the sauce to Quantum Records, which is still Bopete cooking up the sauce. All my day ones know Bopete cooking up the sauce, but from anybody from, I say 2021 to present, knows Quantum Records, and that's more of the business side of things. Quantum Records is me pushing my business entity.
So we're talking with Noah Peterson down here on a weekly segment called Talks with RJ. And I noticed also you didn't waste any time with your vision, man. At the age of 19, you opened up your own local recording studio, and for artists to help support them. How did that come about? Because there's so much talent in this community and area that people don't realize. A lot of people don't know the talent. So can you talk about what made you do that to help other local artists? I mean, even not even local, but just different people all across the state.
Mm-hmm. So here's how it started, man. So I got my first job whenever I was in high school. And I was working at Jack's down here locally. And with my first paycheck, I bought some studio equipment with my first paycheck. And then that started everything. And after I bought my first studio equipment, I messed around with it, trying to get it working and everything like that. And that's what really pushed that narrative. So once I got, fairly decent with it at a young, early age, that's when I started, recording other people. Other people asked me, hey, could you record me? Hey, And as I was recording one person, that one person would tell the next person, that one person, such and, so forth. And once that really hit and it stuck on, it just started to grow and bloom. And while that was growing and blooming, my business, and I was also growing and blooming as a producer and engineer, also as an artist. So everything just transpired one foot after the next, you know what I'm saying? But it took me to work hard on my craft and me, to actually focus in. That's what brings us back to that focus. It took me to focus in on my gifts and my abilities and understanding that, hey, this is something that I really want to do, I can't waste any time. You know what I'm saying? I can't go out and hang out. I can't, do this or do that like everybody else does. I have to sit here and focus on the actual goal and
Right.
the actual agenda that, that I got my eyes set on my future,
And most people don't realize it's a difference between being a rapper and a producer. Most people think it's just rapping, but it's a lot of things that go into rapping and producing. Can you talk about the stage and the process between rapping and producing? Because anybody can rap, but it takes time to produce and make sure in your case, you want your craft to be right, want to be perfect. It's not like that perfect sound when you come to producing music.
So basically, the difference in rapping and making music is you're orchestrating a song. The producer orchestrates the song, the engineer orchestrates the song, and the rapper kind of just writes the lyrics. So you need both. You need the beat, you need the song to be orchestrated, and you also need the lyrics and the artist. So what I was doing at first, I started rapping, writing down my lyrics. Then it was me trying to find beats. After me trying to find beats, it took me from trying to find beats to actually orchestrating, putting the whole thing together. And then that's what really balances everything out. But, it's a tedious process. It takes a lot of patience. And
Right.
that's the reason why you have more rappers than you have producers or engineers, is because engineering is a patient, like you got to be very patient, So that's the kind of difference, with the rapping, you can just feel a flow and feel a vibe and then go off of that. Even with, not just even rapping, even singing, even, rock music, pop music, gospel music, it's all the same thing. You still have those lyrics, and then you have those instruments or those, musical components, but you also have the person that's organizing and putting everything together.
And Young Bopete, you don't even know, but you're really an inspiration to this community because, it's a lot of talent in this community, where there's athletes, where there's artists, but you're taking things to a whole nother level because in 2021, you opened up your new studio, man. Can
Yes,
you talk
sir.
about that? So I'll do my research, and I found out it's a film studio, a podcast studio, a vocal booth. How did you manage to get all of those things done around 2021?
Man, it took me just right time, right place. I was in search for a bigger studio, and the ones that knows the old studio. It was a smaller building. And one day I was just riding around. It was me and my brother, and we stumbled across a property, and it was like, I kind of peeked inside just to see what it was like, and it was everything that I was looking for. It was a warehouse, had multiple rooms. And, I was like, okay, well, let's see what we can do. And once I finally got in and everything was all set in stone, we turned it to like you said, podcast. We got vocal booth. We got Studio A, Studio B. We have, room for spa. We have room for cutting hair. We have so many multiple different rooms and warehouses where people can come and be creative. That's the main thing. It was for me to open up for everybody to come in and have a creative space.
And we're talking with Young Bopete down here at Daybreak. Before we wrap the interview, I want to ask a few more questions. So I do want to talk about, so you're located at 1319 Old Birmingham Highway, correct?
Yes, sir.
Do you want to shout out anybody, like any artist you're working with now or anything you have coming up soon?
Hey, man, I want to shout out to every single artist that I've ever worked with. I just want to say thank y'all, but not only thank y'all, I want to tell y'all to just keep going and keep pushing, keep striving for where you're trying to go. I know as content creators, as artists, as entrepreneurs, sometimes it can get difficult, but that's what brings out the best in artists. You know what I'm saying? Like the time that it's hard to keep going, keep pushing, you just got to keep going, man. Like keep going. Sometimes it feels like it's going to be tough. Sometimes it's going to be like it's rainy days, but the main thing is just to keep pushing, keep striving on what you're going for. And also I have a mixtape coming soon, album coming soon. So make sure y'all be on the lookout for that.
Okay, and one last question before we wrap the interview up. Do you have any inspiration to any youth that want to be artists, want to be entrepreneurs? Can you tell them it's not just about the vision, but it's also putting the time and effort to get what you want to accomplish done? It's more than just sitting around doing it. You have to go be like you and make it happen, right?
Yes, that's absolutely true. You have to get up and you have to make it happen. A lot of times we consume so much content and so much things that we forget to chase our dreams, and that's the main thing. You have to get out there. You have to chase your dreams. You have to stay focused. You have to stay locked in. If you're not staying locked in, if you're not trying to be focused, or if you're, like not using your time wisely, then it's going to be harder than most. But if you're locked in, if you really want something, if you're really striving for it, if it's something that you're actually praying for and you trust and believing about, then you'll make it to that next level. But the key is to not stop, keep going. Even when you have setbacks, you have to continue to push, because that's what's going to get you to that next level.
Thank you for your time, young Bopete, and we look forward to having more guests soon. And you guys enjoy your day. Thanks.
Great.